Hello and welcome to Baseball Barbacast, the only baseball podcast in the world with more corn than the Field of Dreams. I'm Jake Mintz. That's SNY's Chelsea Janes. And what better person to talk about rolling hills and Iowa cornfields with? Good morning, Chelsea.
Man, no nicer intro has ever been given for me.
I hope there has been. Jordan Schusterman is currently on vacation in Maine, enjoying some birding. We will be talking about corn. The Field of Dreams game was last night. That is our opener. For the first time since 2022, MLB brought itself back to Iowa for the Field of Dreams frenzy. The game in the cornfield paying tribute to the 1989 film. That's perfectly fine. If you like it, that's awesome. I'm really happy for you. I don't hate it. I don't love it. I have been to the Field of Dreams game back in 2022. They redid the stadium since then. That was the reason for the layoff between 22 and now. It was a temporary structure at that point. Now it is a permanent structure. There's an enormous youth facility going on there. Chelsea, just zooming out a little bit, we had Phillies Twins last night. How do you feel about the movie? And then how do you feel about this one-off game?
You know, I'm pro the movie. It moves me when I watch it. So there's that. I'm not like telling everyone you must see it, but I've enjoyed the movie over the years. Susan Waldman actually yesterday told me that the book is much better. I have not read the book, so now I feel I must.
Wow.
But yeah, so that was interesting. But, you know, I was at the first Field of Dreams game, the Tim Anderson, was it Tim Anderson? Yeah, White Sox Yankees. Yeah. That was special. You
were there for that?
Oh. Yeah, it was incredible. I got chills. I loved it. This was shortly after I had come off covering politics and spent a year in Iowa, so I had some like warm Iowa feelings. So I loved that game. I love when they try new things. This doesn't feel new anymore. That's the only gripe I have. It's like, okay, we did this, but yeah, I mean, it's totally fine. That's how I feel about it.
I love any attempt to break up the long season, particularly in August when the days can kind of run together and we're looking for something to kind of grab our attention. MLB clearing out the Thursday night schedule for this is interesting and intentional. It is a huge schlep to pull this off, to build this field in the middle of a field, to get 26 Hall of Famers in and out of Iowa, to get 27 players on each team, and the broadcasting and the facilities, and they're building clubhouses out of scratch, and they're paying every player $20,000 just for being there. And I guarantee you the Hall of Famers got a little bit of that scratch as well. Yes. But it is all worth it in the league's mind for the spectacle that they're able to pull off here.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I've thought about this a lot. It would be really, really difficult in so many ways, but it would be really fun if each team could do something different once a year, you know, because this isn't different. The Little League Classic we've seen, you know, they did the NASCAR thing. I feel like that didn't hit because the weather was bad, but you know, I really appreciate them trying. I wish it were easier to play major league games somewhere else, but it just isn't. But yeah, and this is fun. Right. I think the Phillies are a great team for stuff like this too. They did the Little League Classic really well when they did that. The guys just kind of play along really well. But yeah, I don't know. I love when they try. I just wish it were easier to try way more things in way more places.
So let's talk about that first, and then we'll hop back to Bryce Harper being a theater kid and dressing up in corn paraphernalia. The league has now done games in a variety of different spots. It started with the Fort Bragg game in Carolina, I believe a little over a decade ago. They've done the Little League Classic. They've done games in Omaha. They did the NASCAR game, like you mentioned. They've done the London games. And if we're thinking about, one, why do these work or not work? What is the point of these games? And what do we want to see in the future for a different spot? For me, there's really like two main things that I liked about it. One is the visual. You and I are watching so much freaking baseball. And the 30 backdrops of these 30 stadiums, after a long time, they kind of get not monotonous, but we just get used to them. And so tuning into a game that simply looks different, the visual of the Field of Dreams game, I think, is the best. When they cut to that shot of the pitcher from behind home and you just see the horizon of corn behind
Yes.
them and nothing else, is just so good. The ball's
Yes.
flying into the field, like all of that stuff is great. And then in my mind, the second component is, can we bring baseball to places that don't usually get baseball, that don't get high level Major League Baseball? And I think that that is a big part of what has made the Bananas, the Savannah Bananas, successful, is that they're picking up ball and they're bringing it to these places that don't get the spectacle of big baseball all the time. And so when you think about those two things, the one that comes to mind for me would be Cape Cod. To
Ooh,
do it around a Cape Cod League game, I know that
yeah.
those fields are like well maintained and maybe not at the level of an MLB playing field, but if you could kind of tie in the kind of the majesty of a summer on Cape Cod and do a big league game there, obviously the Red Sox would play. I think there's kind of a summer retreat element that you could do that would have some cool images to go along with it.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I mean, the problem is that these games sort of require the teams, players, everyone to like take things a little less seriously for a day, which is not what
Mm,
they're geared to do. And I think the other problem is like even not having ABS obviously was a little bit weird last night. And when you move these games around, it's hard to bring all the infrastructure you need to like keep this up to MLB standards. So it kind of requires you like surrendering a game a year, which is why I think if you could have every team do it, then maybe it just gets a little
yeah.
bit easier because there's like one game a year that everyone knows is going to be weird and you deal with that. Um, Cape Cod is
Oh,
such
so
a
it
good
kind of
idea.
evens out. Like it evens
Yeah,
out from a yeah, and another way to think about it is like, can you play somewhere else in your state or in your market
totally.
where, like, if I'm thinking, Arizona playing a game down in Tucson, or you
Yes.
have, you know, one that I've thought about is like the Blue Jays should be playing a series in Vancouver every year.
Oh, 100%. Mariners, Blue Jays, and Vancouver. I mean, the
Right.
NASCAR game was a low key Nashville test run, in my opinion.
Mm,
Not that they need to test run Nashville. I think it'll be great. But yeah, totally. If you could move each team, those teams do those like winter caravans, like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I think it would be really fun. It obviously gets a little tricky with certain markets, but it's just not viable though because you just the standards have to be so high and
Sure.
no one wants to give up a game. But if you could get everyone to give up one, it would be awesome.
So there's the part of what made the Field of Dreams game work is like it does mean something to the players, where
Yes.
you are not every player. Like I'm not saying that
Yeah.
you know like Jose Alvarado walking out of the cornfields with like just munching on a stalk was
Did you see what
hilarious, but
Cristobal
I don't think
Sanchez Instagrammed?
no.
It was like an Onion article that's something like Dominican players, no one translated why they were walking out of corn or something. It was like so, and
Like
he posted it with like a laughing emoji.
exactly, right? Like for those guys, it's merely whimsical. There's no deeper meaning
Right,
to it.
right.
For Cody Clemens playing catch with Roger Clemens, like there's a deeper thing here. So if you're thinking about like what could mean something to players, I do think Cape Cod does sort of have
Yeah.
not everybody played on the Cape, and fewer guys than ever are playing on the Cape now because of Team USA and like the way that college baseball functions. But it is a place that holds purpose,
Yeah.
and memories for a lot of these players. If there are other places like that, like could you do a game in Cooperstown? The one that comes to mind for me that is really just a shame we've never done is just go play a game down in the Dominican. Like we have not
I was
played a
just gonna
regular
say,
season baseball game in the Dominican Republic.
crazy. I think it's crazy. I mean, that's the not problem, but the complication with this is like whose nostalgia we're honoring, right? Like not to get too deep here, but
Yeah.
it's one section of baseball nostalgia. And I don't did they play a game down in Birmingham? Remember they redid the field?
Yeah, they did.
Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. So like stuff like that is really important, but it's just that's another thing that complicates it is it's easy to play in well, it's not that easy, but Iowa means something to some
It's
people, but
easier to sell. It's easier to
easier
sell
to sell.
Iowa, but you're right that like the going and bringing the show down to the Dominican, my understanding the reason they haven't done it is that like there have been disagreements on upgrading that facility.
Right,
The playing surface there, like that has kind of been
right.
the reason we haven't seen it. They played a spring training game down there
Yes.
a couple times. They did it this spring, I believe. And I do think it will happen eventually. The other ones that I would love would be Alaska and Hawaii.
Be sweet.
Um, Alaska has the midnight sun game where they start at
Yeah.
like 10 p.m. when they don't need lights because it's sunny the whole time. This is a college summer league that has done this forever. Barry Bonds, who we'll talk about in a sec, he played in that game. A lot of college players used to go up. Like the college league in Alaska used to be the second best league behind the Cape. It's kind of dwindled recently because it's literally in Alaska. But I think that that would be a cool trek to do with the Mariners because there are Mariners fans up in Alaska. And then the other one for Hawaii, like that is a place that loves baseball. Hawaii loves this sport and they are really good at it. And just because of the distance, they don't really get to see it. And honestly, I don't think it would be that hard to convince a bunch of baseball players to go to Hawaii.
No, you'd have to do a series, not a game. But yeah, doesn't Ohtani live there in the
Yeah.
off season? So there you go. It's the
Ohtani does
Ohtani
live there.
Sangria Bowl.
Exactly. You exactly. A great Hawaii thing was during the Futures game this year. This is such a tangent. During the Futures game this year, the Phillies had Shane Victorino, who's Hawaiian, manage
Yeah.
one of the teams. And instead of like building a roster of Phillies legends, he just not like roster, a coaching staff of Phillies legends. He just built a coaching staff of Hawaiian guys. And I was like looking at
That's
this
awesome.
roster, like the coaching staff. I was like, why did Shane Victorino pick all these guys? I was like, oh my God, they're all from Hawaii and Adam Jones, who apparently they're just all friends with because baseball players, they like going to
I feel
Hawaii.
like Adam Jones is an honorary everything. He's like
100%.
everywhere all the time. I don't know how, but he is. Yeah, that's so funny. I didn't know that.
MLB, get the show on the road. Start bringing these games around. Last night was great. It is such a thing to do. It is a schlep from the field surface. Like the amount of work that this grounds crew must be putting into this is really commendable. And they did a good job. The game was on Netflix. Not sure if you heard about that. The third and final installment of Netflix's foray into baseball. They had opening day between the Giants and the Yankees. They had the home run derby. And then they had the game last night. Opening day got mixed reviews. The score bug was smushed. They had the players running out of cable cars and taxi cabs.
That's
Bert
right.
Kreischer was shirtless on the field. It was all a scene. Last night was a little bit more reserved in a good way. I thought that the score bug was different, but still odd and way too large. The
Yes.
broadcast, it was huge. It took up like half the screen. The broadcast was solid. It was totally fine. I thought that Anthony Rizzo trying to do jokes at the very end of this with Kyle Schwarber was a little cringe. He did his best. The best part of what Netflix has to offer, in my opinion, is that we get to see Barry Bonds.
Yes.
Right?
100%. It was amazing on opening day. Every once in a while, he would say something. You're like, have we heard him say this before? Like, it's the people. They have the people, and they can pay the
Yes.
people because they're only doing it a few times a year. Yeah, I totally agree.
Absolutely. And so, like, the most interesting moment of the game last night was on the pregame because I'm a sicko. I watched the pregame back, and they were, so much of the Field of Dreams ness is like smothered in fathers and sons.
Right.
And so they asked Barry Bonds about his dad. And like Barry and his dad had, such a close relationship. And like Barry's gruff demeanor towards the media was in some ways related to the way that the media treated his dad. And then, Bobby Bonds passes away kind of prematurely in 2003. He's only 57. And like you saw Barry get really emotional talking about his dad in a way that I don't think I've seen him do in public before. And so that was really compelling. And then you had, Barry talking to Luis Ariz before the game. It was like, what are these guys talking about when it comes to hitting? You had Barry asking Bryce on the post-game desk, Do you still have that bat I gave you? And Bryce giggling and being like, yes, Barry Bonds. Of course, I kept the bat that you gave me. You're Barry Bonds. And so all of that I thought was so interesting. Having Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens both on the broadcast after you honored 26 Hall of Famers on the field felt like a little bit of a humiliation ritual to me, though.
Super weird. I mean, but it's just so baseball. Like everything about that game is, and all of it is just so like, this is not the same, but the gambling presence at a
Yeah.
game and like based around Shoeless Joe Jackson banned for gambling on the World Series. And yes, it's right. There's the tweet. It's different, right? Like you can't throw the World Series, but we're headed that way if you let people get this close who can't control their gambling addiction. So just there's irony. I remember thinking that too, the first year they did it. Just irony, right? Like, Tim Anderson was one of the stars they marketed there the first time, and it was like Tim Anderson has no connection to like white Iowa. This doesn't express
And
his
and he
baseball
said
experience.
that.
And he said
He's like,
that,
I don't
and
care about this movie. Like
100%. Not to mention the fact that at the time, like that part of Iowa was in, I think, the territories of 6 different teams that were its games were blacked out. Like it's just
yeah,
such an amazing embodiment of how much baseball requires you to like hold many things at once. And I don't mean to make it like all meta, but that
absolutely.
was what hit me. It was like Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens watching those guys. Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens are historical Hall of Famers. Like we all know how good they are, but it's just like a weird, they did something wrong, and so just I don't know. It's just that's just baseball to me. That's what it always is.
And then there's the component of the whole movie is sort of this, text on anti-commercialism and
Yes,
the
right.
about how like you don't want to sell the farm because you saw ghosts tell you to build a field, and it's about like
But
this the
MLB
love
bought the
of it.
farm. Yeah.
But then like MLB ended up buying the farm and like built a stadium and like a youth complex instead for travel baseball. So like you do need to leave some of your cynicism at the door in order to enjoy this, which is fine. Like we are doing that in life all the time, and I'm happy to do
Yes.
it when it pertains to baseball. A couple more favorite moments from this game. Bryce Harper leaning in, as he always does, wearing corn themed arm sleeve, corn themed cleats, having a corn themed bat. And I think what was not noticed was, I think, a corn stalk necklace.
That is crazy. I don't think I did register that. I mean, that's Bryce. And what I love about it, because I know people don't love it, he's gotten cornier, pardon the pun, since he became a
Oof.
dad too. Like he's just kind of like all in on it, Like he doesn't care, and I respect it a lot. I feel like
Yeah.
I don't know. I know people think he's always pandering and stuff,
He
but I think he just like cares. He gets caught up in the moment. Like, great, more of that. If
Bryce
that's the worst you
Harper
can say
is
about him, who cares?
he's a theater kid trapped in an elite athlete's body.
Yes,
Bryce
yes.
Harper wants to be in Bye Bye Birdie so bad, and he doesn't even know what it is. And so instead, he has to settle for this stuff. And that's great. I wrote something once, not to quote myself, but Bryce Harper understands he's not playing against the Marlins, he's playing against the movies. Like he
Yes.
gets entertain.
Wow, that's
This is
good.
entertainment. He understands
Totally.
that his opponent is boredom, and as a result, he's willing to never be too cool for school. And
Yes,
that is part of what makes him very endearing at this point in his career.
totally. I think it's his boredom too. Like he the
Great call.
grind
Yeah.
affects Bryce Harper, like and one of the things that's really interesting about him is like he grew up knowing what he had to be, that he was supposed to be like the next great thing, the natural, whatever. And I talked to him one time and he was talking about how he was like so kind of well known as a teenager and kid that he like would sit and just watch a lot of movies because that he couldn't like go out in the world
Mm.
and be a normal kid, And I just think he has this flair for the dramatic. He's got cinema in his brain. And that's why even like when the home run derby in Philly, I just thought he would win it because it's just he's got that button in his head that says this is a
Right.
moment. And as he's gotten older, it's
Yeah.
harder to meet that moment, but yeah, he's a performer. And I think
Yeah.
that's, we like joke about it or whatever, but I would take more of those anytime.
Other fun moments from this game, we had Luis Ariz trying to challenge a pitch after he forgot that there was no ABS in this game. Do you think he did this on purpose? Like, do you think he intended to like do it as a
Make the
bit
play.
and then apologize? The ump didn't seem to think it was funny.
Maybe. He's definitely, like, smart
Okay.
enough to do that, he's a thoughtful
Yeah.
baseball player, so I wouldn't rule it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oops. My bad.
Whoops, sorry.
And then sorry, didn't mean to embarrass you, except I did. And then we had, of course, 2 Kyle Schwarber home runs, including one on the very first at bat of the game, third pitch. A guy who also, like Bryce, meets the moment, but in a very different type of way. Kyle's second home run bouncing off the glove of Luke Keyshaw down the right field line. Cinematic, but more of a comedy movie than a Field of Dreams style drama. Phillies end up winning this 7-1. Aaron Nola looked about as good as I have seen him throw in quite some time. He should pitch in Iowa whenever he possibly can. And this
Yeah.
game did mean something for both of these teams who are competing for playoff spots. The Phillies have kind of tumbled down the standings a little bit since the trade deadline. And I was talking to someone on the Phillies a couple days ago about how they were sort of looking forward to this game to just have something different, to just be in a different environment, in a different place, just to break up the season. They played, I think, 17 games in 17 days, and this was the capper to that stretch. So now today they will take a nap, and they will resume play with the Twins this weekend in Minnesota for a very important 2 games. Chelsea Janes, any final thoughts on corn, on Iowa, on the Field of Dreams, on playing catch with your parents before we take a break?
No, I really don't. I
Great.
think it was cool, but yeah, no.
Great. All right, we'll be right back. And when we are back, we will ask Chelsea Janes about baseball in New York City. And welcome back to Baseball Barbacast. Jake Mintz, the indomitable Chelsea Janes, a moral compass in the baseball universe. Chelsea is also an insider, a baseball insider, the baseball insider for Sportsnet New York. After many years spent here in the nation's capital, Chelsea and I switched lives. I now live in DC. Chelsea is now up in the New York area. And Chelsea, this has been year 1 for you of spending time around the Mets and the Yankees. Now, as a national baseball reporter at the Washington Post for many years, it's not as if you didn't see these clubs, but being around them every day gives you a different perspective, different appreciation, a different series maybe of frustrations related to these clubs. So before we zoom in on anything specific, what have been like your big picture cultural takeaways on Yankee world and Met world as a ball knower, but a new to the area outsider?
Yeah. I think generally, like for both teams, the thing that sticks out is you can't get away with things in New York. I know people talk about the New York media and what is different here. It definitely is. But to me, the big difference is like if you're somebody who needs a pass now and then, who doesn't want to own up to something after a game, who's not going to run a ball out, who's going to make a mistake and wish they didn't have to talk about it, like you can't do that here. You're just, everything you do is going to get noticed. And you know what? If you're someone who holds himself to that standard, should be totally fine. But if you're a baseball player who doesn't love, having to answer for every little thing, who maybe doesn't think every little thing is a big deal, this is going to be a tough place for you. But for me, it's been like fascinating to watch, and I get why some guys can't handle it, but I also get why if you can, you can, and you become a legend.
It's why
My
the
takeaway,
Corey Seagers and
yes,
the Kyle Tuckers of the world who want to not be a main character, who want to
right,
show up do the job and go hang out with their children, that's not a bad thing. Like, that's not,
Right.
immoral. It is merely a fundamentally different experience. And like, as
Yes.
lazy it is to say some guys can deal with it and some guys can't, like, that is true, right?
Yeah, it's not even like, I think what I thought from the outside was like some guys can deal with it, and that is a wiring issue. And it is, it kind of gets cast as this like failing, you know. And I
Hmm.
think it's more some guys want it to deal with it. Some guys are open to dealing with it, and some are like, no, I don't need this. Like I don't need to worry about this the way I do when I'm here. And I totally get that. I get it. But I respect the people who kind of accept it and say like, okay,
Yeah.
I know that I'm going to have to deal with scrutiny on a level that I do not get elsewhere. It was funny. I was talking to Francisco Lindor about kind of everything, and he was saying like, some people choose to go elsewhere. Some people can't deal with the he said she said of it all. And I was like, he didn't say he was one of those people. He was just saying like, it's hard here. You can't please everyone, and I think
Yeah.
that's true. So, but
Right. Like, here's a good example. Marcus Semien and Corey Seager did not get along in
right,
Texas for a long time.
right,
No one really knew or
right.
cared. One, because they won a World Series, and two, they were in Texas. Soto and Lindor, their relationship, in my understanding, was never as icy
Not
as that
even
one.
close. Not even
Like, not
close.
even remotely close.
No.
And yet, because it's New York, we all
Yes.
know about it and think about it, and it becomes this character in our baseball
Yeah.
lives.
100%. 100%. And if you're obsessed with a baseball team, like you care about that stuff. And people here are
Yeah.
obsessed with their baseball teams. It's not that people in Texas aren't obsessed with their baseball team. They are. There's just less of them who care about it on that scale because the Dallas
Yeah.
Cowboys exist, right? So that is my main New York takeaway. My main Mets takeaway is they're cursed. Like this is Red Sox
Oh,
1918 to 2004 level cursed. Like something is wrong. I don't
okay.
like, I mean, I don't know anyone who's watched this team who disagrees. Like, it's crazy. I mean, nothing seems to work. You can point to any one person, and say, David Stearns has done poorly. Like, I mean, nothing works. Like, you have a managerial press conference every couple years, a GM press conference every couple years, and nothing, it doesn't work. So I'm
Because
really interested.
if you had asked me 3 years ago, who do you want as your GM and your manager, I would have been like, I don't know, David Stearns and Carlos Mendoza. Like,
100%.
and yet it doesn't matter. Let's actually talk about Stearns for a second, because
Yeah.
this is going to be a crucial offseason for him.
Yeah.
Matt's president of baseball operations. I believe he will be entering year 4 at the helm of this
Yeah.
organization.
Yes. Yeah.
And he has won 2 playoff series, which both came in the same season. He has spent a lot of Steve Cohen's money. He has not won enough games. I think the sheen has already worn off a bit. So I'm going to ask you a 2-part question. 1, what does David Stearns need to do this winter to make the 2027 Mets a contender? And then 2, like, do we need to fundamentally rethink the way that we think about this guy as one of the best executives in the sport?
Yeah. It's so the first question is, in my mind, pitching.
Mm,
Pitching, starting pitching. I think one of the things, and this is related to the second part of the question, that is very clear about David Stearns is he does not believe in seeding value. So, I mean, at least on the pitching side. So if he's not going to sign a 7-year deal for a starter, if he knows the back end's going to be bad. And the back end's almost always bad. So if you want the Mets to sign Tarek Skubal, you have to understand that that's going to be a Steve Cohen move on which he overrules David Stearns, because otherwise David Stearns is not going to be doing that. I don't think it's
mm,
going to happen. But one of the things that hasn't worked here, because they don't have the pitching infrastructure yet, or maybe ever, that the Brewers did to generate young starting
Right.
pitching that is low cost. And given the chance to find starting pitching on his own, David Stearns has chosen to try to be value oriented, but also not, right? Like, he gave a ton of money to Frankie Montas, and that didn't work, So it's almost like needing to be
Yeah.
clever for clever's sake, and I think in Milwaukee you have to. I'm not trying to say that's like an arrogance on his part,
Right.
maybe it is, but I think there's a reason to believe that's the way to approach it, but I think for me, the thing that has to change is you just gotta spend on pitching. You can't hope that somebody's gonna be good if you wanna win the World Series. You have to know, and you have to know that 1 through 8 are good, not 1 through 3, 1 through 8, 1 through 9, 1 through 10, and he just does not approach it that way, and will that cost him his job? I think it definitely could.
I remain cautiously optimistic about the 2027 Mets
Yes.
because when I look back on this season, I mean, you can point, when you're this bad, you can point to any number of things, obviously. But in my mind, the damning thing about this year's team is they just never, they built the offense around injury prone players. And then the two guys that don't get hurt, Lindor and
Right,
Soto, got hurt. And so they
right.
were just left with this husk of an offense at a very crucial time in their season. And Bo Bichette, like, forgot how to play baseball for the first 2 months of the year. For 2027, I think if those three guys are themselves and healthy, Lindor, Bichette, and Soto, with AJ Ewing and Carson Benj now being real adult baseball players who look pretty
Yes.
good, this is a team that I don't feel bad about. It just depends on what they do with the rest of the roster. Like, are we really going to do the Beatty, Mark Vientos song and dance again? Are they going to cut bait on Jorge Polanco and Marcus Semien? How good is Francisco Alvarez? I still don't really know. And so, like, to me, the bottom of the offensive group is what will determine how successful this team is in 2027.
Yes, and I think the thing that either is gonna define David Stearns as a really smart, patient executive or not work here is that if I had to guess, I would not expect him to make huge, huge moves to improve the bottom of that order. I would expect him to let Simeon hold second base for one of the prospects,
Yeah.
emphasize defense. If they do cut bait with Beatty, Vientos, and those guys, like, find good defenders. Like, I don't think this is going to be splashy. I really don't. And I don't think it has to be because you're right. Like, they have what they need. The one thing I think we might have learned that David Stearns does not emphasize enough in my mind, or at least enough judging by how the Mets season has gone, is like the people part. They just need an anchor. Like, Juan Soto he's going to come do his thing, but he's not going to make you follow him. Like, he's going to come
Yeah.
play baseball. If you want help, great. But I'm not going to say, hey guys, you hold yourself to my standards. No, he's going to hold himself and you follow. Lindor, kind of similar, like, wants everyone to follow him, but there's a little bit of a disconnect. Like, you need someone in that room who doesn't let you do less, and a judge. I think Harper and Schwarber are that way. The Dodgers have a million guys that are that way. Like, you need those
Bregman is
guys.
this.
Bregman, yes. So where do you get those guys? I don't know. Certainly they don't just grow on trees, but the Mets don't have one, and they haven't had one. Pete Alonso is a great guy who's done a lot for the Orioles, but he's not that guy. You just need someone in there who makes you feel bad about not
So
doing your best every second.
I kind of think Pete has been that guy more in Baltimore than he ever was in New York, which is its own interesting
Yes.
conversation. You know who was this for the Mets for a while was Chris Bassett. Like,
Yes, I
he
believe
carried
that.
himself this way
Yeah.
when he was in the rotation, when he was on the Mets. But I think you're right. And Lindor is such an interesting character in all this, where he moves as if let me rephrase some of this. There are very few players, in my opinion, that are difference makers in a clubhouse. There are very few.
Yes.
Willie Adames, Kyle Schwarber, Alex Bregman. Like, it's a very short list. And I think that Lindor thinks he's one of those guys, and I don't think he is one of those guys, at least at this point in his career. And so he acts like that, but it doesn't always manifest in a way that is productive. And I think
Totally.
that is kind of the disconnect that happens around there. And then you have Marcus Semien, who they thought could be that guy, but was OPSing like 515 for the first month. And you're not going to tell everyone to be accountable when you suck. And I think that is, if you're a clubhouse leader and you're not like a Garrett Stubbs, Austin Hedges, backup catcher goofball type, like you got to play. You got to bang, because these players respect players that play well. And so they don't have that guy that does both of those things. I'm looking at the free agent market, and that's just not a character that exists.
No.
And so I'm not sure how they go about acquiring it.
Right. Yeah. No, Simeon's so interesting too, because he is a hardo, but I think he's almost like too old school in like the play every day. Like he's kind of set in his ways in a way that makes him hard to relate to for other people. Lindor, I think he's so complicated because people like want him to be something and he's just not. And I think he wants to be something, but his way of leading does not bring people in the way others want. And that's not necessarily terrible, but when as the Mets last year, you're kind of blowing him up as that guy, when he wants to be that guy, it looks like you're failing when it doesn't happen. I don't think he's just a different character that guys can't quite connect with. So, I don't know. None of that is like a huge, huge character flaw on his part, but there's not a lot of guys
that doesn't make him a bad person, right? Like
no, exactly.
It's just how this dynamic plays in the room. If you're talking about like, okay, they should just go give Miguel Rojas like way too much money to come play for a year. I know he said he's retiring, but make him an offer he can't refuse. And then the guy who I think they should get, who I don't think they will get, but I think is Jock Peterson. I think Jock Peterson, who is a sneaky, great clubhouse guy, about as disparate of a character when he talks to the media and when he talks to like internally to his teammates. Like for us, he's awful. Like he's borderline pointless. He very rarely says anything interesting on the record, but by all accounts is one of the most interesting, enjoyable, and meaningful clubhouse characters in the sport. I think friend of the program, Andy McCullough, wrote a story about this with Ken Rosenthal last year. So Jock Peterson, here, we can make this the headline of the pod. Will Jock Peterson save the 2027 Mets?
Could you imagine?
Let's move on from dreaming about the future to worrying about the present. The New York Yankees, the other baseball team in New York City, are in a playoff spot as we speak right now on Friday, August 14th. And it almost doesn't matter if Aaron Judge does not come back. So here is the two-part question. One, is Aaron Judge world beater, MVP, linchpin of the lineup, that Aaron Judge? Is that Aaron Judge coming back this year? And if not, can the Yankees win the World Series without that?
So I think, it's well phrased. A version of Aaron Judge will be back this year. The question is,
someone
if it's
with 99
version,
on the back, someone wearing 99 will play baseball this year for the New York Yankees.
Yes. Can he swing without his shoulder hurting? I don't know. I think this has taken longer than he expected. I think that's fair to say. I think it is a complicated injury for Aaron Judge because he had the injury in 2020 where he broke a rib and punctured a lung, and it was like a kind of he learned this after. It just kind of was scary. So I think there's a lot of caution and like history wrapped up in the way they're handling this injury. That being said, there's no way he's not back. But is he going to be good? I would expect him to be back playing baseball games for the Yankees in like mid-September, and we'll know then. I actually think a compromised Aaron Judge is still very helpful to them because everything about the Yankees feels different when he's there. Like you were talking about how few guys influence a clubhouse. I don't know if I've ever seen anyone dictate the tone in a clubhouse the way he does. Like when he's there, no one's at their lockers. Everyone's all business. No one's just like laughing around with the media. It's like baseball, Yankees baseball, all the time. When he's not there, it's like a little more chill. You can kind of feel it. When he walks in, things change and young players follow his lead. So I think that will help them, not because being a little bit chiller has hurt them, but just because like his presence really matters. Can they win the World
Yeah.
Series if he's compromised? I think so. I am so much higher on this team than almost anyone I talk to because their pitching is so
Why?
good.
Mm.
Schlittler, Cole, Fried, especially Schlittler and Fried. I think I don't know who else is built better to at least challenge the Dodgers in a long series. Maybe no one can beat them. I think everyone's beatable, but I think their starting pitching is really, really good. And I think their offense is way better than people think. I know it's looked terrible, but when you get Judge back, Bellinger, if you have Stan coming off the bench, Luis Garcia is a really good hitter. You got to find room for him. But if it comes down the stretch to who's fighting for playing time, like Luis Garcia, Jazz, you're going to be able to get I just think they have a lot of talent.
Yeah.
They've got this mix of old and young. George Lombard is a game changer defensively. I just think they're really, really good and deep and the kind of team that grows in October rather than shrinks. That's how I feel about them.
I also think it is important to emphasize that this Yankees team is not the 2024 Yankees team that fumbled and bumbled their way out of the World Series. That team got a lot of stick, deservedly so, for how many mistakes they were making on a regular basis. And we saw that come to fruition in Game 5, where they erred their way home. This Yankees team is good at defense. They're not elite. They're not the Cubs. Jazz, for all of his jazzness, is one of the best defensive second basemen of the sport. Whoever's playing shortstop is pretty good at it. Lombard is probably special. McMahon is good at third base.
Yes.
When Bellinger's healthy, he's magnificent in left. The worst defensive player is probably Trent Grisham, which is funny because he was brought in originally because he was good at center field. That's the only kind of yellow flag I have about this unit. I don't think they will make mistakes like that 2024 team did, and I think it is important to separate those two things, that like they're not bad at this thing now. The thing that killed the last version of this team is it's a different group of players. Last Yankees specific question. They got a lot of stick at the deadline for not being active enough, for not upgrading the catcher situation. That being said, there are essentially 3.5 new characters here on this Yankees team. You have Elliot Ramos, traded over from the Giants. You have Luis Garcia, the smiling, grinning, toothy Dominican, who I totally enjoy. He comes over from the Nats. You have George Lombard Jr. coming up. And then you have this 0.5 character, in my opinion, which is Spencer Jones growing up.
Yes.
Like Spencer Jones over the last couple of weeks looks like a different version of himself. So with that all in mind, how do you look at the Yankees deadline 2 weeks after it now?
I think it was inexplicable, and it might end up looking really smart in hindsight. I don't think there's any way to sugarcoat the fact that they needed offense behind the plate and just somehow didn't get it. I mean, they clearly decided that what they could get for the price they were willing to pay was not a big enough upgrade over Austin Wells. Now, Austin Wells has looked a lot better lately. I don't know, like he looks much more functional at the plate. Not somebody you want up there all the time. Yeah,
like, do you ever watch The Sopranos?
Yeah.
So, they're in The Sopranos. Sometimes instead of like whacking a guy, killing a guy off, they do like a mock execution where they like pretend to kill the guy to like scare his pants. And like that's what the Yankees did to Austin Wells. Is they were like, we're gonna get a catcher, and then they didn't, and Wells was like, okay, I get it, I need to behave now.
Right. And like I mean, obviously everyone knows this, but like he was a hitter first. His defense has really improved. The pitchers clearly trust him. So that's great. And if you can turn that bat back on, which again, I think is happening at least, more. It couldn't be worse. Like, okay. And then the thing that, the bullpen, I don't understand why they didn't get help there. In fact, they subtracted, but I think they subtracted so they had room for other guys. And as they always do, it seems like they found them. Like Yari de Los Santos yesterday pitched an inning and 2/3 scoreless innings where he looked as good as any reliever I've seen in their middle innings this year. They just find guys. Carlos Legrand-Hayes coming, and Ryan Weathers might be able to go do something in the bullpen in a short series. Maybe even Rodon goes in the bullpen. So you can see it working, but you kind of wish they had made sure, right?
Yeah.
And then, the thing about Garcia is he doesn't fit their roster, but he was the best bat traded, in my opinion. So you're going to have to find room for him, and that might eventually hurt your defense. Like, I don't know if you have to throw him at third at some point, or I don't know how it's going to work with Ben Rice and Paul Goldschmidt, but he can hit and he makes contact. And that's the other thing that makes me think this team is a little different. It looks like they've been, all boom or bust, and maybe they still are, but they can run. Garcia, Caballero, guys like that, they can make things happen. So I don't know. I don't think their deadline made any sense, and it might make sense in hindsight.
Chelsea, last New York question. The post-deadline Mets are a wagon. The New York Yankees are very good. Which team wins more games over the rest of the season?
The Yankees.
Okay. Yeah, that's the right answer. Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Enough New York, enough Big Apple bias. Let's take a break. And when we get back, we'll do good, bad, Uggla, and let Chelsea get out of here. And welcome back to the end of Baseball Barbacast. Jake Mintz, SNY's Chelsea Janes. No Jordan, no problem. It's time for the good, the bad, and the Uggla. If you're new here, here's the deal. One thing good, one thing bad from the week that was, and of course, one thing reminiscent in some way of Braves, Nationals, Giants, Marlins icon Dan Uggla, a player that Chelsea covered and has quite a significant affection for. Chelsea, I will begin this week, and I will talk for my good about Kinley Rasmus. So Kinley Rasmus is a pitcher for the Phoenix City Little League team, the daughter of former big league pitcher Corey Rasmus, and Kinley threw a complete game shutout in the Southeast Region Final to send the Phoenix City, Alabama Little League team to the Little League World Series. Now, we have had girls show up and dominate in the Little League World Series before, most famously Monet Davis. And I was thinking about Kinley Rasmus in the context of the new Women's Professional Baseball League and how the Little League World Series for girls that want to play baseball, not softball. Softball is great. We love softball. But for girls that want to play baseball, the Little League World Series really is the most visibility that exists for girls playing baseball. And as commendable as the WPBL is, and as important as that is for people to see, nothing compares at all to when Kinley Rasmus will take the mound in Williamsport and a ton of girls aged 6 to 11 will sit at home and watch it. It will be on ESPN. It'll be easy to find. People will be talking about it. And so for that reason, besides her being good at pitching, this is an undeniable good for me.
Yeah, totally. As a girl who wanted to play baseball, I was devastated. I played with the boys. Yeah, the Little League World Series was the dream. And then you follow her later and you see where Monet Davis ended up and that there isn't really an outlet. And you're kind of like, oh, but now there is. So
right now there is an outlet, and that's what's cool about it. And I do hope that the Women's Professional Baseball League finds a way to like capitalize on that, specifically the Little League element, because like by a mile, the most famous women's baseball player in the world is Monet Davis by like a factor of 50.
Yes.
Right. With all due respect to Kelsey Whitmore, who's probably the best women's baseball player in the world. Like Monet Davis is the name that people know. And that knowledge starts in Little League, which is cool. Chelsea, what is good for you this week?
Well, Jake knows this. I have a complicated history with Dodgers swingman Landon Knack, simply because during the 2024 playoffs, it felt like every time he came into a game, that game slowed down so dramatically that it ruined my dinner and sleep plans. So I would get frustrated when I saw him. And I even can hear myself saying this at Dodger Stadium. Like, I'm sure he's a nice person, but I need him to not be in this baseball game right now. Well, he dropped a pop-up the other day.
Just to be clear, this is when like in that LCS, the Dodgers were just purposefully losing certain games. Yes. They were like it was Landon Knack and it was Brent Honeywell, friend of the program. And they
Yes.
would just send him in there and it'd be like, we're losing today so that the good
Yep.
relievers can throw tomorrow.
Yes.
And you're up in the press
Yes.
box like, why am I here? Why am I watching
Yes.
this?
And Landon Knack's fighting for his life, and I respect it, but man, just like put it in there, man.
Wrap it up.
Anyway, he dropped a pop-up the other day trying to make a play on a ball that an infielder should have grabbed. Pretty embarrassing. And his wife made fun of him on Instagram for it, and it's hilarious. It's great. Like, and I feel bad now that I ever made fun of Landon Knack. See, he can catch. See? Because I think he's a great guy who can make fun of himself, and I'm sure he would understand why I was frustrated during those years. I'm sure he was frustrated, but I love this, and I would like to formally apologize for my angst. It was about me, not him, 100%.
This video, for those of you who did not see it, Landon Knack is like, I think, walking out of the stadium to the area where the wives and girlfriends are waiting. And as he walks out the door, Lady Knack tosses Mr. Knack some sort of balled up shirt or piece of garbage as he's walking out. And you can see him as he's catching the ball or the ball, realizing that his wife is making fun of him.
Right. It's perfect.
Which is great. Like, being able to laugh about the things that you mess up is undeniably better for you in the long run when you're a professional athlete playing in front of a lot of people. So good on the Knacks. My bad this week is a different Dodgers reliever, Edwin Diaz. He pitched last night. Again, blew yet another save. The Brewers are in LA for a big series, a 4-game set this weekend. The Dodgers took the lead last night on a big home run from Max Muncy. Kid who started yesterday for the Brewers, Shane Drohan, like, how are they doing this? He looked unbelievable. Like, not just the stuff, but his composure on the mound pitching in Dodger Stadium. I was so impressed. Anyway, Dodgers score off the bullpen, take the lead, head to the ninth with a 2-run lead, and Edwin Diaz coughs it up, allowing 4 consecutive singles. In comes Alex Vesia. He allows a single to Jake Bauers, and the Dodgers blow it against the Brewers. Since coming back on July 29th, Edwin Diaz has allowed 8 runs in 5 2/3 innings, and Dave Roberts, his manager, is not happy about his big offseason acquisition not being good at baseball. This is from Katie Wu. Quote, this is on if Dave Roberts on if Edwin Diaz will still pitch tonight. Quote, give me another option. I have to have other options. To be quite honest, none of these guys have really thrown the baseball great. Outstanding. This is great, Dave Roberts. Now, obviously, the reason this is bad is because Edwin Diaz is supposed to be good. And if he's not, and the Dodgers still win the World Series anyway, with their 2 big offseason acquisitions, Kyle Tucker and Edwin Diaz being much less than they expected, that's also bad. And I'm sure is something that will be talked about quite a bit this winter as everyone fights about labor. Let's pivot now to Chelsea Janes, who is sitting in a different location than she was before, as she needs to be a parent. Something that's not bad this week is that Chelsea's little daughter is with her. And Chelsea, you're going to talk about someone that needs to spend some time with their family.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, sorry. So Craig Kimbrell is signed again. First of all, all due respect to Craig Kimbrell. Truly, like, he was super nice to me in Mets camp, really thoughtful. He's great, but people keep signing him. Like, once the Rays couldn't fix him, I think you gotta call it. He hasn't been good, and Junie knows this. He hasn't been good in a while. And even when he was at the Mets, you could see, like, everything had to be perfect, right? Like the fastball, the cutter, it all had to play off each other perfectly, and it wasn't. And the margin for error was so small. If I were him, would probably leave. that profession now. I'd try to go spend time with my kids. Although, if you can see like what's happening here, I do think there are arguments against that. But he, it's surprising to me that people keep signing him, but I respect it. I respect trying to get it back, but I think for legacy purposes, I would like to see him call it.
And you make a great point, Chelsea, which is like, if the Rays couldn't fix you, brother, the Royals probably aren't going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
An element of me is like, you should play until the wheels fall off. I kind of did the same thing and went and played independent ball for a week and got swirly and ERA above 1,000 and went home. And now I sleep at night knowing I gave it my all. But Craig Kimbrell, you gave it your all. You have nothing left to prove. You have enough money in the bank. Go
100%.
into the sunset, my friend. Go hang out with your family. My Uggla this week, as we let Chelsea parent her daughter, shredded Wade Boggs. Chelsea, did you see shredded Wade Boggs? He's shredded. Shredded Wade Boggs. This looks as AI as it gets. And guess what? I don't think it's AI because I don't think Wade Boggs would know how to do this on AI. Wade Boggs, who during his career was not shredded. Wade Boggs kind of had a reputation for throwing beers back and being sort of a pudgy character.
Like a legendary amount of beers.
A legendary amount of beers. As someone who watches a lot of bodybuilding YouTube, I will admit, I am skeptical that this is, yeah, I do. I am skeptical that this is 100% natural. I think that Wade Boggs might have a little bit of help here, which is fine. Take whatever meds you want, live your own life. But this picture of Wade Boggs, who is 68 years old, geez, this is as ripped as a 68-year-old I think can be. He's out on a fishing boat, muscled up, good for Wade. I love it because he's thirst trapping at 68, where the caption for this again, it's on Twitter, just another great day on the water. Yeah, man, everyone's looking at the fish and not your outrageous biceps.
Hey, they stop testing when you retire, so you do whatever you got to do, sir, respectfully.
Do whatever you got to do. Another great part of this is Jim Palmer, fellow Hall of Famer, responding. Jim Palmer, who has become one of the best follows on Twitter. He says 100 walks, 200 hits for 7 straight years, and the Red Sox said you were just a singles hitter. If you looked like that when you played, no complaints for the front office. Hope you're well.
Incredible. Jim Palmer's so spicy these days. It's awesome.
You saw that this is a good transition to your Uggla, which was Jim Palmer tweeting about the Orioles deadline when someone said, Jim, what do you think about the Orioles? What do you have to lose? And he's just said, my job. Chelsea, this week we got a weird video of Orioles owner David Rubenstein sounding disenchanted about owning the team.
Yeah, so he kind of was saying like, look, I inherited a first place team. I've put a ton of money in, and now I have a last place team. So he's kind of coming to terms with the fact that you kind of can't throw money at this. And I find this Uggla instead of like bad, because it's something I've heard Steve Cohen say too. And I think it's like kind of good and bad, which is Dan Uggla in a nutshell for me. Like it's like you can't just spend and win, right? And it puzzles these people who have spent their whole lives spending and winning at everything else.
Yeah.
With this attitude. And then you can't just do it. And I think that's good for baseball ultimately. Yeah. Like as we have this salary cap debate and all this, it's like, even if you don't get a cap, like it doesn't fix everything. It helps, but it doesn't fix everything. And I kind of like that. Yeah. I kind of like that these billionaires are like, why can't I do this? You know, and they'll figure it out.
Right.
But it's taking longer than you thought and they thought, which I love.
I know, Junie. It's so frustrating for Orioles fans to see that the guy that they thought was going to save them in the end has not so far. That's our show for today. Weekend of baseball coming up. Dodgers Brewers is the headliner. We unfortunately missed Mizorowski versus Skubal by a day. Instead, on Sunday, we have Logan Henderson against Tarek Skubal, which is great. The guy that the Brewers didn't want to trade for Tarek Skubal against Tarek Skubal at Dodger Stadium. That is nice and spicy. The Phillies and Twins will finish off their Field of Dreams set. We have Paul Skeens, who I am only slightly worried about, against the Red Sox at home on Sunday. Chelsea is pointing to her elbow. I will point to mine as well. I wrote this yesterday, Chelsea, a new term I call Occam's scalpel, which is like Occam's razor.
I love
that. The simplest explanation is the correct one, and that is that someone needs to get on the operating table. The one other series that I'm looking forward to is Padres at Guardians. Both of these teams are in the mix. And then, don't look now, but the Detroit Tigers, if they sweep the White Sox this weekend, they will be in first place in the AL Central. They are currently in possession of the third wild card spot in the AL, all by themselves, one game under 500. The Tigers are alive with the sound of music. Who needs Tarek Skubal? I certainly don't. Chelsea Janes, thank you for joining us. Thank you to Ross Tudor and Andrew Hartz for producing. No distracting at the end, Chelsea. Parenting comes first. Do you have any final thoughts? Where can people find your work? Where can people find your daughter's work?
Baseball? Do you like baseball?
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 I'm at SNY. I'm on Twitter, Chelsea_Janes. And I'm sorry for all that is happening over here, but it's the best. So
is she? She's not on Twitter yet.
What'd you say?
She's not on Twitter yet?
She's not on Twitter yet. She's big into colors though. We're working on colors. So once we get a few more things, we'll get her on Twitter. Yeah.
She's more of a blue sky person. All right, Chelsea, thank you so much for joining us. Everyone have a phenomenal weekend of baseball.